In this particular one, we're going to create some text and use filters and layer options or layer styles to make it look like it is gold glitter. You are going to need to be precise with the color choices that I give you, so make sure that you press pause as you go so that you can follow along. So I'm going to start off by creating a new file, and I want this file to be 1350, whoops, 1350 pixels by 1000 pixels. And we'll leave the resolution at 300, and the rest of it we're going to keep default. Before we do anything else, we're going to set our foreground and our background color. So the foreground color, remember, is the one that's in front. So we're going to go here. You have different ways of changing the color, whether it is the hue or the RGB or the luminosity or the CMYK. You also have down here what is called a hexadecimal number. So we are going to choose for this one 525252. It puts a dark gray. And then we're going to set the background color to 0D, 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 which is nearly black. Okay? Now, we are going to use our gradient tool to give this a radial gradient background. Remember that your gradient tool is docked with your paint bucket. So get your gradient tool. Up here, instead of clicking on the color box, I want to click on this first one here, and what it is it's the foreground to the background color. So I know that it's going to start with foreground and go to background. And then we are doing, like I said, a radial gradient. You'll notice that there are 5 different ones here. We have linear, the second one is radial, then you have angle, reflected, and a diamond. We're doing radial. Now, we could be very precise and show our rulers and line it up to where it is exactly in the center, but we're going to estimate here and start from the center and drag to any one of the corners, and it's going to put in that radial gradient for us. Now, one of the things that you have not seen yet are filters. And filters are certain presets that Photoshop has that allows us to give an effect or a filter to it. And there's even an entire menu dedicated to filters. So we're going to come up here and we're going to go to Noise, Add Noise. Once we get that, you see that you get a dialog box that pops up. Notice that it also has a preview window so that we can see what the change is as we make it. And I want to set the amount of it to 5, the distribution to uniform, and I want to check the box that says monochromatic. Monochromatic means that it's going to fall in the same color family. And then click OK. And that made a nice little change for us. All right, now we are going to create some text, and I'm going to go ahead and get my horizontal type tool, and we need to find a font, and I am doing this on my home computer, which doesn't have all of the same fonts that we have at school. So you are going to have to find one. I'm choosing Bernard MT Condensed, I think it is. And I'm also then going to choose the color. FF, whoops, I have to type, sorry, in my hexadecimal. FF EB0F. And that gives me a nice bright yellow. I'm going to click OK. And I am simply going to type or click and type, and I'm going to type the word glitter. Now, I'm going to highlight it because I do want to change the size of it. And you possibly need to also go into your character panel because the horizontal and the vertical type or scale is set from the last time we used it. So let's go ahead and make that. Why won't it let me type? I know, it's being difficult. And there we go, 100. All right, now I can go in and set the font size, and I can make it a little bit bigger. I can move it to the center, and with this font, it's going to wind up being about 120. If it's not exactly 120, that's fine, but about. And again, just position it to where it looks like it's in the center of your page. All right, now, first thing that we want to do is, using our layer panel, we want to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to drag it down to the new layer icon, make sure it's not the group, but the new layer, and then we're going to work off of the one that's called Glitter Copy. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and apply some layer styles to it. So I'm going to double click, and the first one I want to do is going to be a drop shadow. Notice that when I click on it, I get the checkbox, but it's also highlighted. That highlighted shows me that I can come over here to make some changes. So the first thing I want to change is the color that it's going to blend, and it's going to be 383838. I am also going to change the size of it to 10. And then I'm going to go to inner shadow, and I am going to come up here to the blend mode. I'm going to change the color of this to 625841. It's kind of a brown color. I am going to change the size of it to 13. And I'm going to change the contour to half round. If I click this little arrow, notice that when I mouse over, it gives me a pop-up that tells me. So I know that this one right here is half round. And then I can click off of it, and I can go on to the next one. Next, we're going to do bevel and emboss. Bevel and emboss, we're sticking with defaults until we get to the depth, where we want to make it 450%. We want to change the size to 10 pixels. Then we need to come down here to the contour, and we want to choose log. Now, if I look here, because I already know what log looks like, I know that none of these are log. But if you come over here, you see that gear shift where it lets me replace or add contour. So I'm going to click contours down here at the bottom. I'm going to choose append. Remember, append adds to. And I know that this one right here is log. So I'm going to choose that. I'm also going to check the anti-alias next to it. And for highlight mode, I'm going to change the color to FFF119. It's another bright yellow. The shadow mode is multiply, and it also is going to get a color, and that is 8A7B3E, and click OK. And then the last thing that we are going to do is right underneath bevel and emboss, I am going to check contour, and I'm simply going to make sure anti-aliased is checked, and then I'm going to click OK. All right, so this is what it looks like so far. Now, we have a neat little trick that will allow us to make a selection of the text here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to Command click on the T. Notice it selected all of the text, and I'm on the glitter copy layer. Okay, you can see the marching ants. I am going to set the foreground color to 7D6905. And then I'm going to set the background color to D3C614. Okay, so a gold and then a yellow color. Now, before I do anything, remember that you can't actually do anything to a text layer other than add text or add an effect. Okay, so I need to create another layer, and this layer is going to be called texture. Okay, and what I want to do on this texture layer then is fill with the paint bucket the foreground color. Okay, so there it is right there. Then I can Command D to deselect. Okay, so if I was to hide that, I still see the glitter there. Okay. All right, now we're going to use some filters to make this have kind of a sparkly texture. So make sure that you are on your texture layer. We're going to go up to the filter menu, and we need our filter gallery. Okay, so there's some filters in here, and there's others that we have to find in the filter gallery. And that gives us a big pop-up. The first one we're going to go to is going to be Sketch, and then Notepaper. And we need to change the settings so that the image balance is 25, the graininess is 10, and the relief is 11. And then you can click OK. All right, so that made a change already. Then we're going to go back to Filter. We're going to go to our filter gallery. We are going to come down here to Texture and choose Stained Glass. Under Stained Glass, we want to set our cell size to 2, our border thickness to 4, and our light intensity to 1. And then we can click OK. And then we have one more filter to apply. It is also in the filter gallery, and that's going to be under Stylize, Glowing Edges. We're going to make the edge width 2, the brightness 10, and the smoothness 5. And then we can click OK. Now, you can see by this why we needed the colors, because that is how it determines all of those extra colors in there. Okay, now this is a little dark, so we need to change the layer blending mode, the blending mode for the layer. And make sure again you're on the texture layer. Right here where it says normal, we want to choose overlay. And when we choose overlay, I'm just going to hide that a minute so that you can see what it looks like. See how it changes it dramatically? Okay, so that is where we are right now. Go ahead and you're going to want to save this and move on to the next video.